Hello, I'm Liz Lumley of Finextra, and today I'm speaking to Marion Leslie of Thomson Reuters, and we're going to talk a bit about data and regulatory challenges. So how have sort of post-crisis risk reporting requirements really impacted how banks manage their data?
Well, I think each new regulation introduces fresh complexity, the demand for new reference fields, and a need for organisations not only to understand each regulation, but the extraterritoriality implications of those regulations. So frankly, each regulation introduces the requirement to source, manage, store and be confident and be able to demonstrate transparency behind the data that's required for those filing requirements.
So, I mean, the way banks manage their data currently and their data structure, does that put up barriers to complying with risk reporting?
I think so, and I think what's happened is that as a result, more effort has been put into the creation of the risk management reporting rather than the actual analysis. And in order to create a view of risk, you have to sort of pull together all the activities and all the relevant data across the firm. And not only is that data stored in different databases across different departments, which presents extraction and normalization challenges, but equally that data is often conflicting. I mean, I've spoken to institutions that have, more than 25 sources of FX rates, or 20 different euro curves, or hundreds of accounting platforms, and just to kind of create a normalized view of exactly, on a single page, what is my risk to a particular entity or to a particular event, the effort that goes into that is extraordinary. So in order to sort of proactively manage risk, and I think where we all want to get to is not a sort of a post-event analysis of the impact, but a proactive decision-making tool that institutions can use to actually use in advance of making a decision and actually enable an organisation to make growth decisions rather than post-event mitigation decisions. All that requires really joined up infrastructure, joined up data management practices, coherent single source of information, understanding of the lineage of that data. I mean, been talking to institutions who know that somewhere in the organisation they have the data they need for risk management, but it's almost easier to buy it again because at least you know where it's come from and you know what's happened to it, rather than sort of run the risk of it going through a number of hops through an organisation not knowing whether it's still clean enough to use from a risk perspective.
So could an improved relationship between the business units and IT enable better data management then?
So I think we need to view this as a project that's key to the success of the organisation, and as such it's not a technology project, it's not a data project, it's not a business project, it's a requirement for the entire organisation to work together and view the data as an asset that needs to be managed to enable the growth of the organisation. Now, businesses need good quality data to drive their growth and their profit margins. The data teams need good quality data in order to support that. And from a technology perspective, this is really about enablement. This is about enabling the entire organisation to manage content from a front to back perspective and make sure that they minimise costs, improve the accuracy of regulatory reporting, enable better risk aggregation and risk management decisions, and proactively help the organisation to make the most of their investment in data to grow the business. So absolutely, the business parties are key stakeholders, and the IT and the data management functions need to support that actively.
So you mentioned data governance a lot. How should it really be viewed in banks in light of all sort of the challenges you outlined?
So I think there needs to be clear ownership, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the owner manages all the activities that happen with a particular data element. So who owns the data? Who has the rights to manage and edit that data? Who has use of that data, and what are they using it for? And are those use cases appropriately understood? So the custodians of the data need to be mindful that they're managing an asset for the firm. They're not managing a cost, they're managing an asset, and an asset that can really drive business for the firm. So the business stakeholders are really important because actually they're the ones that drive revenue out of this. And I think what's happening is, as organisations get to a better place in terms of managing their data assets, they can really use that to drive growth. And I think what we're getting to is the realisation that once we implement all these and programs around managing data effectively across the enterprise, you not only get accurate regulatory reporting, timely and proactive risk management, but you can also use your content to drive growth in the organisation. So do you really understand what your customers need, what their activities are across your firm? Do you really understand, and can you make effective investment decisions and where to put your resources, unless you really understand what's happening to your portfolio across the organisation? Do you really understand the performance in your front office unless you have a complete 360 view of your regulation and your risk activity?